I read this article in the New York Times by Rachel Drucker, and she talks about her experience on the dating apps, kind of in relation to the male loneliness epidemic. Talks about a very real modern dating experience that I feel like we have all had at one point or another, where either you get a guy's number or you're talking to him on the apps and you're texting.
Welcome to Pegasus versus the World, where we take on challenges, comedy, trending topics, and some travel.
City boy! City boy!
All right, we're back, man. I saw this thumbnail. It said, "Where's the men? Where's the beef, man? You know what I'm saying? Where's the eggplant boys, man? Where are all the men?" So the title of this is New York Times article shows women are having meltdowns because men refuse to date. Men have put a chastity belt on the eggplant. You ain't getting my jewels, man. You ain't getting the sacredness of this testosterone. So I figured, let's see what the hell this is about. Now, this is from the Poor Man's Podcast. I like the way he clips stuff up. Y'all have seen stuff from me before from his channel, so we'll see what's going on. I am out of the loop with this, you guys. I ain't in the dating world. Bruh. And the stuff I see online seems to be nonsense, right? Like the way women and men think this, what is it called? Sexual dynamics, you know, in relationships and stuff like that. It just seems absurd with social media where it has gone. And I was in the dating game during MySpace, and MySpace, bro, because, I didn't even know my wife at this time. I remember doing like the copy and paste, like just messaging hundreds of girls, right? And then you get like 2 responses and then going from there, So I can't imagine the things they're doing now. Again, this was the MySpace days, not even Facebook. So now you got IG, I guess they got Tinder, Bumble, Grindr, Hinge. I don't know, man. I don't know where you guys are going to get your lovins, but let's see what they got to say. If you're here for some candor, like, share, comment, subscribe. I'm your boy, Black Pegasus. There's a link in the description of my other channels. Finally hit 500,000 subs on my music reaction channel, but let's go. Let's talk about it.
I read this article in the New York Times by Rachel Drucker, and she talks about her experience on the dating apps, kind of in relation to the male loneliness epidemic. Talks about a very real modern dating experience that I feel like we have all had at one point or another, where either you get a guy's number or you're talking to him on the apps and you're texting, you're getting to know each other. Maybe you follow each other on Instagram. Maybe he swipes up on your story. And if the conversation is going really well, there's no movement or action on his part to set a date in person and get to know each other in real life. In the article, she labels this interaction as directionless orbiting, which I feel like is genius to label it. I've been in this situation and it's so confusing because you think like, oh, did I do something wrong? Should I be making the first?
Directionless orbiting. They come up with a term for everything. This is like clinicians, like doctors and medical practice. Like, yeah, for that directional orbiting, we have something for you for only $29.99 at your local Walgreens. Yeah. Directionless orbiting, whatever the hell they said. We can get that fixed up for you, bud.
First move, what's going on? Does he like me? Does he not like me? Did I just waste a week of my life talking to this person? So hopefully labeling it as this directionless orbiting can help kind of take some of the mystery and the frustration out of it.
Before we get into the TikToks of women complaining about this issue, let's go ahead and get into the original article. And this article is from the New York Times, and this was 3 days ago. It says, "Men, where have you gone? Please come back. So many men have retreated from intimacy, hiding behind firewalls, filters, and creative personas, dabbling and scrolling. We miss you." Go figure. Men don't want to go where they're not wanted. If women don't want men, and they've been saying that for the past 60 years, eventually men are going to say, we don't want to go where we're not wanted. And also, when you read
Yo, before he gets into his canter, shout out to him. Go check out his channel, The Poor Man's Podcast. Look, if it has graduated from when I was young, like I was telling y'all the little, on MySpace trying to meet chicks, but I was in real time going out to meet girls. I go to the mall and try to get numbers with my homies, and I was the shy one of the group. Like I didn't have the banter, the how I am now, right? My personality has grown, you know what I'm saying? But back when I was young, I was scared to talk to chicks. So I'm not trying to judge myself. I don't think I'm bad looking, let's say. I don't know where you'd rank me in the scale of, hey, he's handsome, he's okay, he's good looking, whatever. But I did okay with the ladies. But I do remember being a dude who did okay with the ladies. You know, you go to the club, you know what I'm saying? You're doing your little two-step. I'm probably about 18, and there's this group of girls. And you're like, you kind of just move up to them and be like, hey, do you want to dance? And instead of, you know, sometimes they'll just be like, nah, but they kind of snarl at you. Like, don't you see I'm dancing with my girls? Back up, fool, type of, you know? And I'm not going to lie. If you ain't good at rejection, I'd be like, man, fuck this, man. I don't need this, man. Damn, I'm going to go do me, you know? And I think that concept is being amplified, right? Because of what I call the TikTok hive mind. When you get on TikTok, you just see females landsliding dudes. Like, dudes ain't until they need your help, right? Until they're doing bench press at a gym, can't get the weight up, and they need a man to lift it off of them because it fell on them. And then nowadays, men are even scared to help them because it's like, let's keep it real. Men are certain type of creatures, and I get it because I've seen men do stupid things, right? My wife was telling me one time some dude like followed her in like a grocery store and then ended up like touching her butt or trying to touch her butt when she was young. And I'm like, bruh. So I understand this reservation women have when they're like, yo, I'm going to choose a bear instead of a man in a forest, which is crazy talk. But I understand where it comes from, right? Because men can't get out of pocket. But at the same time, just landsliding and curving dudes, I think we're seeing this weird social pushback for men because also with the rise of adult content stimulation online, VR, you know, soon you'll have these AI chat bots. You're going to have these dolls. We're going into a weird place, you know? So I don't know, but let's listen a little bit. I think this is all unique. And, you know, I get a little scared because, you know, I have daughters that I'm raising and they're going to go into the dating pool at some point, and I'm going to be there to vet the men they date. And it's going to be an interesting time, to say the least.
These types of articles, you got to take it with a grain of salt because she's only talking about the men that she wants. Every woman knows a man that would give them exactly what they want. They just don't want that man. So they want the man that every woman wants to only want them. So when you read these articles, you got to read it with a grain of salt. Troy and I have known each other for almost...
He just dropped a gem. That is a huge component of this conversation. Because there are really good dudes out there. Loyal, honest, working hard, bomb, bomb, bomb. But a lot of times, those type of dudes will get put in this friend zone or, oh, he's kind of nerdy. He's not, like they want this edgy, they want this perfect man, right? This edgy bad boy that's never going to cheat on them. Does that even sound like this? They want unicorns and, you know, and it's just interesting. That is a huge, shout out to his candor because that is a huge part of this conversation when we're talking about the dating scene. And that could go for men at some capacity too, but really, when you see some of the conversation pieces online, I would say that hits the nose with a lot of female points of view.
Exactly what they want. They just don't want that man. So they want the man that every woman wants to only want them. So when you read these articles, you got to read it with a grain of salt. Troy and I have known each other for almost 20 years. We met at Playboy of all places, back when we were both learning how desire gets packaged, sold, and sometimes misunderstood. Y'all met at Playboy? That wasn't a red flag? We stayed close friends, bonded not by our opinions, but by the effort it takes to stay in someone's life. That night, we made the effort. Still, what I saw unfolding around us felt like something else entirely. A collective shift I couldn't unsee. It started to become clear the previous April when a man who had been pursuing me canceled dinner at the last minute. There was a scheduling mix-up with his son's game. I understood. I am a hockey mom. I get it. Still, I went. I wore what I would have worn anyway. I took the table. I ordered well. I watched the room. Only 2 tables nearby seemed to hold actual dates. The rest were groups of women or women alone, each one occupying her space with quiet confidence, no shrinking, no waiting, no apologizing. Look at those strong, independent women sitting at a restaurant. I'm 54 and I've been dating since the mid-'80s. Been married, been a mother, gotten divorced, had many relationships, long and short. I remember when part of heterosexual male culture involved showing up with a woman to signal something. Status, success, desirability. Yeah, that was in a time where women were assets. Now that most men see women as liabilities now, especially when it comes to marriage, because more men are afraid of divorce than they are marriage because of the current circumstances. So it isn't seen as a status symbol to be with a woman anymore. It is seen as a status symbol, however, to be with a woman who enjoys family, who respects you, who shows that she appreciates you for your sacrifices. But that's just so few women now that men have started to see women as more of a liability than an asset. Women were once...
So what he was saying is true there, right? I just did a reaction on my music channel to Oliver Anthony's Scornful Woman, which totally talks about this. And, you know, women who a lot of times have nothing wanting 50% or more when the marriage ends. So that's definitely a liability. Also, when he said the status symbol of having a wife, someone who's loyal, trusting, beautiful, loving, caring, you know, even homemaker, whatever you want to package that, yes, that is a status symbol. And then also you have these guys like Leonardo DiCaprio, where it's just like, if you have a young, beautiful woman that you're not married to, meaning you don't have that liability, that can be a symbol of, you know, like social status as well. But it's just like, you know, it just depends, because I think about it all the time. Like, I have my family, and I take them out, but I take my whole family out to eat, right? It's me and my family. And if it's not us, then it's like my business partner. So I'm going there to have a business meeting. So there's no reason to have a status symbol with me at that time. So I think there's a lot of context there, but he hit this right on the nose.
Signifiers of value, even to other men. It wasn't always healthy, but it meant that men had to show up and put in some effort. That dynamic has quietly collapsed. Yeah, that dynamic collapsed because women decided to start giving it up without even expecting a man to take them on a date. And now it's to the point where if a man has to take you on a date, it shows that you don't really desire him. And so men are less likely to take women on dates because they're giving it up for free to other men.
It's true. And in the context, it goes back to what he said earlier. Women, there's, and we're generalizing here, so not all of y'all out there, right? But women will like the same dude. So there will be this flock of women. Let's say there's 20 chicks, but they like this one dude. And the one dude, because he's the most desirable, maybe he's very tall, handsome, has money, athlete, an artist, you know, a doctor, whatever the case may be that attracts these women, and they give it up to him just for like, yo, right? But then the game that they play is, well, there's this other guy, he's cute, I want the doctor, but if he's going to take me out to eat, I'll go out to eat with him, right? So he's addressing both of those scenarios right here in one.
So, of course, they're going to see less value in you if you're giving up what they want for free to other men who don't have to take you on dates. We have moved into an era where many men no longer seek women to impress other men or to connect across difference. They perform elsewhere, alone. They filtered us out. I recently experienced a flicker of possibility with James. We met on Raya, the dating app. There was something mutual from the start. Wordplay, emotional precision, and a tone that felt attuned. There was just enough spark to wonder what might unfold, enough curiosity to imagine a doorway. But he didn't step through it. Not with a plan, not with presence. He hovered, flirting, retreating, offering warmth but no direction. That means he wants to beat your buns. That's what that means. He wants to beat your back down without any connection. And you're literally saying what he wants from you word for word verbatim here, but you were just refused to acknowledge that this is the guy that wants sex from you.
And all of us men know that from just hearing this. Directionless orbiting. I'm about to make a shirt. Directionless orbiting camp. Yo, this is insane. I'm about to fast forward to this, I think, because I don't need to hear how she can't. I mean, but these are good examples of. But the other thing that you have to highlight here is that I believe she was 54. Was that what it said in here? She's an older woman. Okay. And what that means is she came from a generation where the dating dynamic was so different. So she's looking for those dating dynamics from them, but she's in the middle of this shift of this shift because of social media and online presence and stuff like that. And I don't think the younger females address this because they don't understand what was available in the past and what men did bring to the table or what they were doing. So I think a lot of it's You know.
If you want a guy that's with all this connection that you're talking about, you can find that guy. You just don't want that guy. Sexual tension and a spark aren't enough to sit still and hope there's substance behind the shimmer. So I named what I felt. I texted him clearly with care, not simply to declare attraction, but to extend a real invitation to explore what is possible. I didn't chase, I invited, leaving the door open. If he ever wanted to cross the threshold, not just to take, but to meet, I was willing. I wanted, and I still do. But obviously he doesn't want you. At 50-something years old, this is probably a man that's already also went through a divorce. He's seen what divorce does to men. He's given away half of everything he's earned, and he doesn't want this emotional connection. He just want to beat your back in. He just want the box. And this should be completely obvious. He doesn't want you. If you've studied through Playboy what desire means and how to draw this desirability, then you should know from your expertise that he obviously doesn't desire you if he doesn't want to pursue you. He never.
You know, I think it's interesting he says that. So my dad is in his 70s now. And, you know, after my mom passed away in 2010, you know, he was struggling with loneliness and da-da-da-da. And eventually he got back out on the dating market. Fast forward to now, he dates. But I do remember one of the first females he dated, they dated for a while. And they seemed really happy together, had a lot of fun together, boom, bye. But this female wanted to marry my dad. And my dad was just like, no, I'm not getting married. My dad really liked her. I'd argue to say he loved her. She loved him. She wanted to get married. But he was like, no. And I don't know if that was out of a respect thing to my mom, which I appreciate, or if he's just like, I don't need marriage. They went dancing. I'm sure they're doing their thing, right? You know, they went skiing. They went on trips. They enjoyed their time together. She hung out at my dad's house. He hung out with her. They hung out for holidays. I think it's dope, you know? It was the first time I saw my dad not so lonely after my mother passed, and I was like, okay, this is actually really healthy, regardless of, it's kind of hard to see, you know, you know what I'm saying, because, you know, your mom and dad are together, da-da-da-da. But again, sometimes I feel like women, in that context, I think that woman should have lowered this expectation of marrying my father and maybe potentially them and, you know, going through the rest of life together, just happy and just chilling out, you know, and being partners, I guess you would say. I respect my dad for that. I would never remarry ever in my life. I'm not going to do it, period, ever. My wife is my wife, and she's my forever wife. That's just what it is. Anyways.
Replied. He still follows on Instagram stories, one of those small gestures of passive engagement that so many of us now mistake for closeness.
So she's really just explaining this directionless orbiting concept. Let's surpass this and see what clips we got here.
Idea that my friend and I talked about called Men, Where Have You Gone? Please Come Back. I want to read part of this column because I think it's really... It just sums up, I think, where we are as a culture. And it's this idea that my friend and I talked about quite a bit because she's on the dating apps and she is like a very direct, forward person, asks for what.
So we see it. We're going to have clips of women talking on TikTok solidifying the point of view of this article. And, you know, it is what it is. There has to be a shift in culture on both sides. And this is the sad thing about it, is that if we can't first, you know, I would personally argue for men to get married, you know, but it's a huge risk nowadays, especially if you're a successful man. So as much as I think the union of man and woman is important, I also think protecting your potential wealth and generational wealth, if that's what you're trying to do, is because that's what you give to your children, right? And if someone takes it from you and they're not able to recreate it or create it in the way you are, it's just it's a L. It's a bad look, liability and a loss. So I would, I don't know what I was trying to get at. I think it's important for the family unit to come back strong. People start having some kids, raising kids, because I think that also makes better societies. I think a lot of these people running around solo, you know, even as a young man, when I was single, I did a lot more dangerous things, risky things. And when I say that, I mean even, you know, let's just say underworld activities, you know, that you shouldn't be doing. So I think there's something about the family unit that seams you together. It's like the glue to it is the glue to society, right? And raising good children, right? Families raising good children to create good society. We're in this generation where we have a pretty rough society. And that's all the root cause of the breakdown in the family. There's so much in our current society, at least in America, that's coming from the breakdown of the family, the nuclear family, and all these new ideas being presented that aren't working. So anyways, I thought this was interesting. Where have all the men gone? I think men are still trying to get play, so I don't understand what they're talking about, because dudes are always going to be some little hornballs, man. So if dudes are really disappearing, that's crazy, because they always going to want to get some of the, you know what I mean? Anyways, I wonder how this works in like countries where they have legal prostitution and stuff like that. Like, how does that play out? Do men take part in that at this huge scale? I just, all this just brings up a whole lot of other questions, but I'm not about to listen for 6 more minutes hearing chicks rant about the same thing. I get it. And it's unfortunate, because if we don't figure it out, society kind of falls apart. Anyways, you guys let me know what I got, what I missed. Holla at your boy.
City boy, city boy.